And we're back for episode number 5, where we get to talk about the Enneagram Type 3. So, Ian, can you give us an overview of the Enneagram Type 3 to get us started?
Okay, number 3, Type 3, the achiever or performer. As we usually do, some descriptive words, some descriptors. So, successful, pragmatic, adaptable, excelling, driven, self-conscious, self-assured, ambitious and competitive. There are, however, a couple of other words which we can probably get into a little later. Vain and deceitful.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to unpack those ones a little bit.
Yeah, we will.
So they sound like they can definitely achieve. Can you tell us more about what happens when a 3 goes to stress?
Yeah, sure. So ordinarily they're very successful, capable, achieving, successful people. So when 3s move into a stress space, they go to their subtype of 9. And in a subtype of 9, they can become withdrawn, and they can go into apathy. So they can actually detach. You can actually feel like you can't reach them.
That sounds somewhat familiar. I know some 3s, and when they are having a hard time, they aren't there. They want to curl up in bed and stay there for a few days.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when they go to 9. It's not the best aspect of 9, but it's when they go to what the 9's described as sloth. They literally become sloths.
So is there a purpose to it? Should a 3 who is feeling that they just want to disappear from the world, should they indulge it or fight it?
Well, it's an indicator for them that they're actually now in a stress space. So once they know their type and they know their subtypes, if they recognize that that's what they're doing, it can give them an indication of, okay, I'm there. And if I'm there, then I can actually start to look at what I can do to move out of this space. But again, that requires understanding what that behavior means and why it's there.
I guess with the success-driven piece that they run, I guess it can at times get overwhelming in varying different degrees, and so disappearing from the world is like a fill the cup back up or regenerate, recharge.
Yeah, well, we'll get into a little bit more about what drives the 3 as time goes by. But the thing about the withdrawal is the withdrawal's there for a certain number of reasons. So the stress can overwhelm them in various different ways.
Yeah, and we'll get back into that a little bit later.
So what happens when a 3 is feeling more secure and a little bit happier in a more positive space? So they are genuinely a positive person, but when they're really feeling secure, they can actually then get out of the natural drives of 3 and move to their other subtype of 6. So in their other subtype of 6, they can become more conscious of other people. And in regards to that, they can be more cooperative and more thoughtful, because, again, the 6 is a thinking type. It's the cognitive. So it accesses the thinking aspect of that subtype.
Okay. And so that helps them to then recenter and get all their ducks back in a row, I suppose.
Yeah. So it's a place where they can then use their natural abilities and add a few extra pieces to it.
So the 3 is commonly known as the achiever or the performer. Can you expand a little bit on that and give us a bit more detail?
Well, yeah, they're driven, as we said in the descriptive words. They're driven, they're ambitious, they're focused heavily on success. So they like to achieve. They like to measure their achievement basically on their previous performance. Again, performance. And the other aspect of performance is it often ties into the fact that 3s, you will often see them in certain roles. And one of the roles you'll see them in is a person on screen or stage. So they have the ability to create a performance, that persona. And in regards to that, um, because they have a lot of natural aptitudes required to that profession, looks, energy, appearance, charm, vibrance, all the things you really look for in your favorite stars.
Yeah, I can think of a couple off the top of my head. So, would I be guessing correctly if I thought maybe Leonardo DiCaprio?
Yeah, he'd be a 3.
Yeah. Renee Zellweger?
Yeah, she'd be a 3.
Yeah. And probably a boatload of others that will come
Yeah,
to me.
then we'll come to those.
And
And
we'll show some pictures of the types when we discuss a little bit more about their presentation. And
yeah,
so you talked about how they are all about achieving and success and they're driven by these things. So who are they measuring up against? Is it other people themselves? How do they know where that bar is?
well, it's both. They can set themselves pretty high standards, because, as I said, success for them is being the best that they can be. So achieving that is their main goal, their main objective, and they will often compete in lots of areas of life, but they will compete with themselves. So they will often measure themselves against their previous performance, and then they will try to do better to improve their performance.
Right, okay. So that bar keeps moving depending on how they achieved or how they succeeded each time they attempt a different task.
Exactly right, and they are prolific doers, so they like to be constantly doing and constantly improving and constantly stretching themselves.
Yeah. So they have that doer nature as well, where they seem to have a lot of energy to put into these things that you said before, you know, about people coming across as quite bubbly and about
Yeah.
the energy that goes
Well,
with
that's
that
the
sense of achievement.
that's the energy, that's the bubbliness, that's the vibrance, the energized,
Mm.
fun bunny, if you want to call it. You know, they are definitely a energized type.
Yeah. So, with all these attributes, where do you think they would be often found in work environments?
Well, they're obviously can be successful business people, so they can be team leaders, managers, um, uh, work heavily in the sports field. So they can be even personal trainers and coaches. Um, they also like team situations. So they actually do well in a team. They like to be part of a team. They like to be part of um, uh, some form of organization. They actually like uniforms. It shows they belong. It shows that they have connected to something.
Mm-hmm. It gives a
So
good opportunity for the
yeah, and
success
you'll
part of
find
it.
them in a police service. You'll find them in the ambulance service. You'll often find them in the police service. You know, again, the appearance is important. Um, so they will often wear the uniform very well.
Mm-hmm.
It's appropriately fitted and it's very tidy. They present well.
Mm. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So, with the performance piece that you're talking about, that they perform and that they can kind of apply themselves to various different situations, um, much like in an acting role, it's they're not their whole self in an acting role. Does that apply to performance in like life roles as well?
Yeah, it does. But on the acting performance role, if they've been typecast very well and they've actually been typed in a role which is their type, you will see them do that effortlessly, flawlessly, because they're not really having to put themselves in a persona that's so much different from their own. But when they're actually acting their own persona, it's very accurate and it's natural and
Mm.
it's with ease and the energy that goes with it.
Mm.
Um, However, the threes do suffer from something that's called performance anxiety.
Right.
So with performance anxiety, that actually comes from something that starts in an early life. So as a young three, they learn the tricks and trades of how uh, to seek approval, how to get someone's approval, and how to learn what you need in order to do well, to achieve. And yeah, so in a situation where they actually start to feel like they get anxious, it's their inner fears. And as we said, the inner fears uh, is feeling not approved of, or feeling worthless, or having no worth. So not being successful, not winning, not achieving, they put that pressure on themselves because of the emphasis that they put on success, on achievement. So when it's not happening, they actually drive themselves into their fear space.
This is reminding me of the conversation we had last week about the twos, because it sounds like where the twos get their worth, their sense of self from caring, but that's about doing. In the case of the threes, it sounds like they get their worth from succeeding and achieving.
Yeah.
And then if they feel like they're not, then it's not just that the thing isn't been achieved, it's that they aren't enough.
Yeah. Well, again, it comes out of the same drive. It's a feeling of not, with the twos, it's not being loved, not being valued, not feeling their worth. And with the threes, it's a similar thing. But as you've said, the difference, the basic difference is the the doing for others, for the twos, in order to have value, and for the threes, it's gaining the approval of others.
Right.
So it's a slightly different thing, but yet the core drive for all of the feeling types can have a similar aspect.
Yeah, I think it comes down to, again, that they're putting their value on doing and not being.
Yes.
Well, the way you're talking about the three, it reminds me of a scene in a movie I saw called Air with Matt Damon. Matt Damon, I'm fairly sure, is a three as well, and he's giving like a really encouraging, um, he's really pushing people forward and encouraging them to do something. And I think the language that he uses is a really good way of describing how the three thinks. So if we watch that, and then maybe you could say what you see in that.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So what did you see in that?
Well, the role itself may not be a three, but him being a three means that he's going to actually put his flavor on it. And what it shows is, it shows a lot of the aspects of three in the way he talks. So he's motivational. He's showing that you are going to achieve success. You are going to, get to a certain place.
Can you summon the will to fight on through all the pain and rise again?
He also carries on to say that, and they will bring you down. And then you'll have to ask yourself the question, who are you really?
Who are you, Michael? That will be the defining question of your life.
Which is actually a question that does come up for threes. Who are you really outside of the performance?
You're Michael Jordan, and your story is going to make us want to fly.
Yeah, that really does tie into their sense of, doing and not being. If they don't know who they are exactly, it is hard to be, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
So you've said a fair bit about the requirement of approval. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, well, with approval, so as a young 3, they look for approval. They hone in on this and try to find out what it is that they can do more of in order to get that person's approval. So they develop the skills and attributes that earn them more approval. This is where the journey starts in seeking attention, which can earn the success. So as far as success and accolade goes, this is how they begin to create that heavy value on it. And this is how they also learn to quieten the fear that's within of worthlessness. So if they're having a success, if they're getting approval, if they're being given accolade, if they're being approved of, then it quiets those fears. So that's something that they've always got going on inside.
So they kind of need to, they become reliant upon it?
Well, it's like everybody and every type. We have our fears and our inner world and our inner thoughts and our struggles. And we've developed a survival, we develop this use of the survival mechanism called a personality type in order to overcome those particular issues.
Right.
And all types do it.
Just in slightly different ways.
In very different ways.
We were talking last week about, in fact, even the first week as well, about how different types have a tendency to have specific facial features, body types, things like that. Is that relevant to the 3 as well?
Yes, it is in a way. They do have physical markers. So for a lot of 3s, not every single one. There is exceptions to all the rules, but for most 3s, a lot of 3s, they're very often good looking. Handsome people. They often take great care in their appearance. They get great care. They take good care of their physique. They know how to dress or costume. They often wear the right outfit for whatever event they're actually attending or playing a part or taking a part in. Remember, presentation is everything, especially for a 3. So 3s value that adage, presentation is everything. And because they want to create the best impression and the best results and the best outcome, and they don't want anything to detract from it. So they often also share a common energy. They're often energized, vibrant, positive, upbeat, or come across as that way. And so they like to actually show that energy, even in the way they dress. A lot of times you'll find 3s in active wear.
Oh, yeah. So
gym clothes, Lorna Jane, things like that.
Yep.
And even guys, they wear sort of fitness shirts and sneakers, and they're very much they dress to show that they've got energy to go.
Yeah. So they reflect that upbeat energy in how they present in their attire.
Yeah, and as far as that goes, they have a neat, usually manicured performance. So usually hair, makeup, even for men, hair is neatly cropped, it's tidy, and so they pay attention to that detail. So they generally present well. They won't generally go out in what we would say a disheveled manner.
Right.
So they will generally go out looking like they've taken care of their appearance.
Dressed for success, eh?
Dressed for success. That's the old adage, and it's absolutely true for the threes.
So apart from actors and gym junkies, and well, not necessarily gym junkies, but fitness and all of that in that area, you mentioned business, that the threes are often found in business positions. So what does that look like?
Yeah, in business they're often very successful as they perfected the skills at a young age to recognize the secrets of success and develop those traits of a successful person. And as team players, as I said, they like teams. They're able to see the value of a good team, working towards a common goal, or working successfully in business together. So as far as that goes, it's still part of their natural traits. So they can do very well in business.
Right. Yeah, I can see how.
Yeah, and in regards to the success within a team, there's one possible pitfall in there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so in regards to that, you've got the possibility of when the success is achieved and the glory comes, that they don't take the glory for themselves. So in regards to that, another aspect, like we mentioned before, and we'll unpack this in a minute, was vanity.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
Vainglory. So it's basically that all of their success and achievements, even within a team, is down to all of their hard work and effort. And yeah, there's a bit more in that.
Right. Okay. So what you're saying is that a healthy, well-balanced three in a team shares the success, but when it's unhealthy, it can tend to be a little bit more personally driven.
Yeah, it's a bit like the twos with pride. I got them there. We're successful because of me.
So moving on with this idea of vainglory, you also mentioned early on about deceit. Are those two things related?
Well, they are. Their value on image and appearance is very high, and it can sometimes become too important and turn into vanity. So, and it can often be described in such terms as show pony or diva, where their image is the most important thing.
So can I just say that, like, from what that sounds like, vanity, it does have a pretty negative connotation, but I think what you're saying is that it's indicative of their own sense of self, and in order to have self-worth, they need to be this perfect version according to other people. Is that right?
Yeah, you see, that aspect of type 3 that surfaces as deceit. Remember, they're driven achievers, hell-bent on success, being very conscious of image, and can often get an overinflated sense of self. And when the inner feelings and fears and conflicts with the outer image, they try to deceive themselves and in turn deceive others. So that's where the deceit is. It's more of a self-deception, but it ends up being, if they do a convincing enough act in deceiving themselves, then the people around them can be deceived too. So they're not being completely honest.
Yeah, that makes me wonder about how that flies in relationships, whether it's romantic relationships or friendships or basically anywhere. If as a three they feel that they need to put on this performance or a mask or put forward something that isn't fully them, they're hiding a part of themselves that they don't want to show. And how can a person feel loved if they know that they're concealing part of who they are?
Well, that is another aspect of it. You see,
Mm.
that scenario of deceiving themselves, you know, and in effect deceiving others. It's been the subject of many movies and TV shows, where the main character gets revealed as not being quite what they portrayed themselves to be.
Right, yeah.
And at some point that gets revealed, and then they have to accept reality. Well, at that point, they've got two places to go. So they can either succumb to the stress of that environment and go to their stress point, withdraw, and basically become unreachable, or they can see it as an opportunity for growth. And we often talk about what creates growth. Well, for growth for 3 in this situation would be, okay, starting to realize that moving towards the healthier aspects of a type 6, where they're starting to be more cooperative and more able to work with others, and being more thoughtful of reality and in touch with reality, which you know, we'll get into 6s at some point, but you know, 6s are often known as the realist as well, because of the fact that they're always bringing you back to reality. So yeah, that they're bringing themselves back to that place can give them a chance. So you often see in these movie scenes the perfect picture, the revealing that it's not the perfect picture, and then the crash,
Yeah.
and then the rebuild, and then basically being more connected, more real, and more in touch. So yeah, it's the movie actually shows quite the cycle for what a 3 might go through.
Yeah, given a lot of 3s are actors, I guess.
Yeah,
It works quite well, doesn't it?
It often shows up. They're finding it that it's quite the natural process.
So kind of touched a little bit earlier on about 3s in relationship with other people, but can you tell me a little bit more about how that could look?
Yeah, well, 3s in relationship. They'll often be in relationship with people who compliment them, and by compliment them, I mean not give them compliments, but they wouldn't mind that. It's somebody who can meet them where they're at. So somebody that has got those markers for success and achieving and driving, and you know, somebody that basically has those natural attributes. And so in regards to that, you know, they can often be seen as what is described as the power couple. So they're out doing, they're walking and mountain biking, and they're out doing activities. Entrepreneurs. Yeah, they work even in teams together in regards to work. So yeah, they look for somebody who can basically meet them at their level of energy and has that same common goals of achievement. They don't always pick somebody of the same type, but they like to have a partner that will do activity with them of some description, or at least support them in their pursuits. So, for instance, you could have a 3 with a 2.
We know a few 3-2 combinations,
Yeah,
don't we?
so in other words, the 3 wants to be out and active, and the 2s are very busy doing people as well. And because they want to help and care for, they can support very well. So they will often help them with their training, or they will support them in their activities or sports, and they will go along and attend. And yeah, it works very, very well.
Yeah. And I think there are other higher energy types in there that would also probably complement the 3 as well. So,
Yeah, so a 7 we've known has always been a fun junkie. The high adrenaline, love danger, and all that sort of stuff. So they tend to be very active, intense type of people themselves. And so the 3s can often find common ground there. So they can go out and kayak and run a marathon, do something with a type that is got the energy to do it. Yeah.
Great. Well, I think we've pretty much covered as much as we can cover, unless you can think of anything else.
Yeah, there is something else. We do live in a modern world, and we live in a world where we've got something called social media and social media platforms. And you will often find 3s as influencers. So they have the natural attributes to be an influencer. They want to look good. They want to appear successful. They like approval, and they like followers. They like to have people compliment them. So and it's like the movie stars and the people on the silver screen. They like to have fans, followers. So they have the natural attributes to be very good in the influencing world of social media.
Actually, while you're mentioning that, it occurred to me that I love watching a lot of these people who talk about, growth and how to better yourself and learn new skills and all that kind of stuff. And the interesting thing is that a lot of them are also 3s.
Yeah, we've often talked about this. So you'll find people doing podcasts and all sorts of things to do with being successful, getting somewhere, making changes, all that sort of stuff. And they're often 3s.
Yeah.
And they have the natural skill to do it.
Well, they do. And they also have some really great advice and information. Although I think knowing that they're a 3 and where it's coming from helps that content land a little better for me, because I'm not a 3.
Yeah. And as I said, that they do have that thing where they love roles of coaching and training and personal trainers, and
they're out with their pom-poms cheering you on kind of thing.
Absolutely. Even cheerleaders, you'll find there's a whole lot of cheerleaders are 3s. And they have the energy, and they love to egg people on. They love to encourage people. So and it is something we see a lot more of now. We have the world of social media.
Right. Well, I think that might just about wrap up type 3s. Next week is going to look a little different, but we're still in the feeling types. We're going to be talking about type 4. Can you give us a little bit of a
Well, the type 4, a different type, still a feeling type. However, a very different type of feeling type, and it feels very differently.
Oh, I think there's the clue.
Yeah. So, they not so much of the bubbly energy, although they can be up and positive and enthused. But they are more capable of dealing with the deeper depths of the darker side of the emotional world.
Oh, sounds interesting. Looking forward to the chat.
Yes, it's a good one. It's a fun one.
So I hope that was helpful and that you have learned a little bit more about any of the possible 3s that are in your life. As I mentioned at the end of the video last time, if you did want to look into a little bit more of this content and how we put our framework together, the Enneagram is the foundation of the framework that we work with, but there are other elements in there too. So if you'd like to go and check that out, my books are called The Healing Compass. It's a series and it's on Amazon. Also, if you're interested in having your own personality type revealed to make sure that you get a very accurate typing, please feel free to send us an email and we'll set that up, talk you through the process. It's not terribly complicated. Well, until next week when we delve into the deep emotions of the 4, we will speak to you then.